everyone, we're going to be continuing today with our work on solving equations. Last lesson we were focusing on two-step equations where we were needing to just do two things in order to isolate the variable and get it on its own. Today moving on to ones that are a little bit harder. Okay, so for today's equations we're looking at ones where you've got a variable on both sides of the equal sign. So something like 2x plus 3 is equal to an x plus 9, okay? Now, our job with this kind of equation is to, first of all, bring the variables together on one side of the equal sign, and then it will look very similar to the equations like what we had yesterday. So it's just got that extra step at the start that we have to deal with, okay? So this equation here says we've got our 2x plus 3, and that represents the same amount as the x plus 9. So first thing that we need to do is to get those x's together. When we look at them, the 2x on the left is positive, and the 2x on the right is positive as well. So that's the first thing that we look for. Are they of the same sign, or are they different? The second thing that we then look for is which is the bigger one, okay? Now 2x is clearly going to be bigger than an x, so what we'll do is we will bring the smaller value to be in with the bigger value, okay? So this x on the right-hand side is positive, so I will move it to be with the x on the left-hand side by subtracting x from both sides. So on the right-hand side, that x and the minus x, those are going to cancel off, leaving me with just our positive 9. Now on the right hand side, I had two x's, I am subtracting an x, and 2x minus x leaves me with an x. 2 minus 1 leaves us with 1, so I still have an x, and I still have my plus 3. And that leaves us with quite a nice equation to solve. We would subtract 3 from both sides. So that plus 3 and the minus 3 cancel. So we have got then that x is equal to 6. So it's just that first step where we're bringing the x's together that's going to be different, okay? So we're looking out for the bigger x if they are both positive and joining it to be with the smaller x, okay? So looking at this equation here, both of the x's are indeed positive. The one on the left side says a 4x, on the right we just have a plus x, so I'm going to move the plus x to be with the 4x. Again, because it's positive, I'll subtract it. And keeping things balanced, we do that to both sides. So on the left-hand sides, that's going to cancel. Sorry, on the right-hand side, that's going to cancel, leaving me with 9. On the left-hand side, 4x, take away an x, well, that will leave me with 3x, and I still have the minus 3. I'll then move to do the opposite of minus 3, which is going to be add 3. Do that to both sides. So the minus 3 and the add 3, I don't know why I wrote 9 there. That should have been a 3. Those will cancel, leaving me with 3x equal to, well, 9 plus 3, that gets us 12. Remembering that 3x means 3 times by x, we do the opposite of times, divide. We do that to both sides. So the 3 in front of the x and the divide by 3 cancel. So we've got x equal to, well, 12 divided by 3, that gets us 4. So x is equal to 4. Okay, so in both of those, we have subtracted the variable from the right-hand side and moved it over to be with the variable on the left-hand side. Now, that's not always going to be the case. Sometimes we need to go the other way. So having a look at our third example here, I've got 2x plus 1 equal to 3x minus 7. Now in this instance, they're again both positive, but it's the x on the left that is smaller than the x on the right. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. So on the left-hand side, those will cancel, leaving me with 1 equal to 3x, take away 2x. Well, that leaves me with x, and I have my minus 7. Now I'll do the opposite of minus 7, which will be add 7 to both sides. 1 plus 7 is, of course, 8. The minus 7 and plus 7 will cancel. So I have 8 equals x. And I might want to write that the normal way and say that x then equals to 8. Okay? So another one similar to that, we have 3x minus 4 equal to 5x minus 2. So again, the x on the left is smaller than the x on the right. So I'm going to bring that 3x to be with a 5x. Now that 3x itself is positive, so I need to subtract it from both sides. So on the left-hand side, that's going to cancel. Now that will leave us with not 4, but a minus 4. We have to keep that sign attached to it. 5x minus 3x, well, that will leave us with 2x then, and minus 2. So we will continue like we did our two-step equations last lesson, and we will add 2 to both sides. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. The minus 2 and the plus 2, well, those cancel, leaving me with 2x. 2x means 2 times by x, so I will need to do that opposite and divide by 2. We'll do that to both sides. A negative 2 divided by a positive 2. Well, the negative divided by positive, that leaves me with a negative. And 2 divided by 2 is just 1, so that's going to be negative 1. On the right-hand side, the 2's will cancel, leaving me with x. And we'll write that the other way around. X is equal to negative 1 for our final solution. Okay? So you might be bringing the smaller variable to be with the bigger variable, moving from left to right or right to left. Either way, totally fine. Okay? So far with all of these, the x's have all been positive. So let's have a try at a few where those x's are negative. Okay, so we have got in our first one here, x plus 5 equal to 11 minus 2x. Now, if ever we've got an equation where one of the x's is negative, we would typically bring that negative x to be with the positive x. So that x there is negative, so we'll bring that over to be with that guy there. And I can do that by doing the opposite of minus 2x, which is, of course, add 2x. Okay, and x plus 2x, well, that will give us 3x. And then the minus 2x and the plus 2x will cancel, so we have 11. Now that's looking like a two-step equation we saw yesterday, so I will subtract 5 from both sides. The plus 5 and the minus 5 cancel, leaving us with 3x equal to 11 minus 5, well, that gets us 6. Now we remember 3x means 3 times by x. I do the opposite of times, which is divide. Those 3's cancel, leaving us with x equal to 6 divided by 3, that gets us 2. Okay, so if we see a minus x and a positive x, we move the minus x to be with the positive x. So we'll look at one other example similar to that. I have got 2 minus x equal to a 5x minus 1. So we've got that minus x there, so we'll bring that to be with the other x by adding it. The minus x and plus x cancel, so we've got 2 equal to 5x plus an x, well that gives us 6x minus 1. Okay, we then do our opposite of take away 1 and we add 1 to both sides. 2 plus 1 gets us 3. The minus 1 and the plus 1 are going to cancel, so that just leaves us with the 6x. 6x means 6 times by x, opposite of times, divide. Now when we look at the left-hand side, 3 divided by 6, well that's not getting us a whole number, but that's okay. We can either remember that 3 is half of 6, so therefore it's 0.5, or use your calculator. Either way is fine, but 3 divided by 6 is 0.5. And on the right-hand side, the 6 and the divide by 6 cancel, leaving us with x. And then we would go ahead and switch those around. So x is equal to 0.5 to get our solution. Okay? So with these equations, it doesn't really matter which order you go in as long as you are always using those inverse operations. If both of the x's are positive, we generally move the smaller one to be with the bigger one. If one of the x's is negative, we usually move it to be with the positive x. So the last thing that I want to have a look at is where both of them are negative. So we have got a 10 minus an x equals to 13 minus a 2x. Now at that stage there, if you want to move the negative x here to go to the other side or vice versa, either is fine. Okay, you choose which one you want to move. Okay, I'm going to choose to move that one by adding x to both sides. So that cancels that x on the left side, leaving me with 10. And a negative 2x plus an x, I think negative 2 plus 1, and that leaves me with negative 1. So I've got negative 1x, or negative x. Now this 13 here is positive, so I would move it by subtracting. Minus 13. Do that to both sides. And 10 minus 13, well that's a negative 3. On the right hand side, the 13 and minus 13 will cancel. Now this x that I've got here, it is minus, so I'm going to be left with a minus x. So I've got a negative 3 is equal to a negative x. So I can remember that when it says a negative x, that does mean I've got a negative 1x. We just don't usually bother to write down that negative 1. So in order to get rid of those negatives, I can divide both sides by a negative 1. Leaving me with a positive 3, because a negative 3 divided by a negative 1 is a positive 3. And a negative x divided by a negative 1 will get me a positive x. So we just do that to switch those signs. So we've got our positive x, and then we can switch the order around. So if both of your variables are negative, you choose which one you want to shift. Either one is fine. You just need to deal with the negative signs appropriately, okay? So that is solving equations where you have got unknowns on both sides of the equal sign. Okay, so from this stage here, you can either go on to My Maths and try the lesson first and then the online homework, or go straight on to the online homework. Okay, good luck.